إن الحمد لله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, it gives me great pleasure today to have one brother on my show. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has great ways of giving people guidance and bringing people to Islam. Sometimes we don't believe the things that, like, the power of Allah, how He could use something that we would not think of, and yet He would bring people to Islam. The brother who I have with me here, alhamdulillah, he was in the American Army, the American Navy. He fought he fought abroad in Iraq, if I'm not mistaken, in Somalia and everything. And according to what I understand, he was an Islamophobe, didn't like Muslims, wanted to kill Muslims. And yet Allah gave this brother Hidayah. Allah brought this brother Hidayah. He had the intention to blow up a masjid. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu went out to kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Umar bin Khattab was given Hidayah through his own sister. So it gives me so much pleasure when I hear these brothers' stories, because you see the path that they've gone through. And we know that Allah is the greatest planner. We have plans, and Allah is the greatest of planners. And when Allah has planned something, nobody can do anything about it. And when Allah has given you guidance, nobody can take away from you. So today I have with me Brother Richard McKinney, who's going to tell us his story. He's going to start first by his introduction. And he's going to start his story how he came from an Islamophobe to the president of the same masjid he was supposed to have gone to bomb or something. If I'm right, if I'm not mistaken. So, Brother Richard, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm okay. It gives me so much pleasure to have somebody like you on my podcast, because the story is so amazing. I mean, usually you meet people who, like, were raised in certain communities, didn't know about Islam and whatever, and like, studied. But, like, your story is different. You're actually a soldier who was sent abroad to fight against Muslims, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was using that to give you hidayah. So if you can explain to us from the beginning, from your childhood, you were raised in what type of community, and, like, and then how you joined the army and stuff like that, and then from there explain to us how you came to Islam in the end.
Okay. Inshallah, I'll try my best. So anyway, I grew up as an inner city kid. I was part of the system. Grew up. Welfare, food stamps, the whole bit. It was kind of a hard life, but now that I look back and know other things, it was a hard life. At the time, not so much. It was just life, right? Learned a lot of street knowledge during that time. I was not a very academic person growing up. I hated school. Hated everything about it. Didn't want to be in school. I thought my whole plan was I'm going to be a professional athlete. Well, like most young boys who think that they're going to be, football stars or whatever, doesn't always work out that way.
Allah is the greatest of planners.
Yes, I might have been good at times, but I wasn't that good. So I did not. I ended up actually getting kicked out of high school. I never graduated high school because I was selling drugs, and they kicked me out. I was able to join the Marine Corps at the time, and for all intents and purposes, at that point in my life, I could honestly say the Marine Corps saved my life, because I saw
the picture. I saw the picture of the handsome boy in the uniform, which I got on the actual thumbnail of this show.
Yeah, I used to be a lot cuter. Mashallah. So I ended up joining the Marine Corps. Served 8 years in the Marine Corps. Been all over. Went to. I've been all over the world. The only continent I haven't been on is Antarctica. I used to tell people until they put penguins on a terrorist watch list, I probably wouldn't go there. So, I got to see a lot of things. I got to grow. But the only problem was with that whole machismo cycle that the military instills in the men, you know, and it's a survival mechanism. It truly is. It is ego, but that's a lot of times that's what keeps you alive, you know. For what it was good for me at the time. Panama, 1989, Operation Just Cause, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Somalia.
So you came very close to where I am. Then I'm in Qatar here, so you came to the Gulf. Okay. So you're very close to where I am.
So I was injured in Iraq. Well, let's back up a little bit. So getting to where my hatred starts to stem from. Okay. As I've been asked the question, what is it that made you hate Muslims so much? You know, was it 9/11? Was it, this?
I was going to go to that. I was going to go to that actually.
Okay. Well, I'll save that then, because it actually is a big key part of the story. So anyway, after Somalia, and it was not a good time for me. Of course, I had issues with the things I saw there. That was the one place that really hit me hard. You know, there was a lot of things that were coming up that, when I joined the Marine Corps, I was actually taught and educated by a lot of Vietnam veterans. And a lot of their stories were coming to life in Somalia. One day we would go into a village to feed them. The next day we'd come into the village to raid them. It was really weird. It was, and it's just, it didn't sit right with me. I decided to get out. Well, actually there was other reasons, but I did. I got out. I got out for 2 years, tried to be a civilian. It wasn't working. I had no job skills. I had a GED. I didn't have a high school diploma. I got a GED, and I had no job skills. So it wasn't working for me. So I decided that I was going to go back into the military. This time I'm going to go into the Army.
Sorry, can I just stop you there for a minute? This is going to be a very interesting story. So brothers who have to go and make some coffee and bring some popcorn or whatever, I'm sure this is going to be a very good story. So, let brother carry on, and inshallah. I got my coffee here anyway, waiting. So, yeah.
So I did. I went back in the Army. I went into the Army, and served about 6 years. Got out and joined the reserves. I decided I was going to give the civilian thing a second go. So I went into the reserves, and it was shortly after that, somebody decided to fly planes into buildings. So they called me up, and I ended up staying on active duty after that. During that time, I had decided that it was my destiny to die in combat. Okay. That was it. And I really was motivated about that, because, in America, if you come back in a flag draped coffin, you are forever known as a hero. It don't matter what you did in the past, anything. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. You are a hero, period. And that was my destiny. But now, of course, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners, and that he had a different plan for me.
Exactly.
So anyway, I get injured in Iraq, and at this time I just went over 20 years total military time. So I'm up for retirement anyway, but I had no intention of getting out. Yeah. But they retired me. They medically retired me and said, that's it, you're done. And I was very upset. I was mad at the government. I was mad at the military.
Sorry, before we get to this point now, I don't want to go that fast, but were you the type of youth that I'd seen on documentaries where you're waking up in the morning and you have the chaplain who comes in and reads the Bible, and then you get on the truck with the music blaring out loud, like you're so hyped up now, like, to go and kill the Muslims kind of thing. I've seen documentaries of that, like, where you're young and you've got that zeal, that blood to go and fight. Were you in that position where like, you wake up in the morning and you're on that truck with your gun in your hands, or you what's the name?
Yeah, oh,
Can you?
yeah. I mean, it's similar. I really didn't put much stock into religion
Right.
at the time. There was. I was one of those people, and you've probably heard this before, especially from Americans, that it's hard to believe in a merciful God when you see so much pain in the world, right?
Right. Okay.
And so it just didn't. The whole religion thing just didn't get with me. It didn't stick. I didn't grasp it. But as far as the amped up thing, yeah, we would load up in our Humvees and we would blast some kind of like heavy metal, just music, and we were just, we were amped, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I saw documentaries. There was like, young American soldiers all hyped up with the music blaring out loud. They're out there to kill Muslims, like, and
it's like a drug, right? You're getting your fix and you're getting ready to go do your job, and that was it. It was so. But when I came back to the United States, I was awaiting my retirement, and I was just mad. I was just mad at everything because my destiny was being taken away from me. I was being cheated. This isn't right, I was hateful towards people in general. And I decided that, you know what? I'm going to do one last thing for this country. I'm going to take out our enemy, Islam. I'm going to do my part to eradicate the world of as many Muslims as I can.
Although you didn't have any Islamic belief, but Islam was the enemy, yeah?
Islam was the enemy.
Right. After 9/11, so you'd been drummed up with that story in your head that, like, they killed 3,000 of our people, so we have to go out there and kill them then. Right.
So I had drummed up this plan, and it was over the course of a couple years. And, I wasn't in a hurry because I didn't want to raise any flags, because I knew the authorities, they kind of got, an ear out for this stuff. When stuff starts happening, no matter whether you're a Muslim, a white supremacist, or whatever you are, when stuff starts kicking off, they raise an eyebrow and they start looking into it. So I took my time, gathered up materials I needed, stored them, and
obviously, having been in the military, you knew how to make a bomb. It was not a problem for you.
Yeah. I mean, it was basically an American IED. That's all it was.
Right.
And yeah, it's anybody can do it. Of course, I had to sign paperwork in the FBI for the FBI that I would not disclose how I made this bomb. Right. So that's fine.
No, we won't go into it. No.
Yeah. So it's like, I came up with this plan. Nobody knew about it. Nobody at all. I had no accomplices. I had nothing, because I didn't want any kind of loose ends. And I was very, this was my hatred. I was very selfish about it. I did not want to share it with anybody. This doesn't affect, my attitude was, this affects no one but me. And I'm doing this, and yes, I will end up in a federal prison. Absolutely. I will end up being executed. Yeah, I knew this. That's fine.
You'll die a hero.
In my mind, yes. And probably in some other sick people's minds too. But, I even said afterwards, I even had the impression that, someday they're actually going to erect a monument to me.
Right.
Right? But I knew what I was planning was against our laws at this time, but it still needed to be done. That was my mindset. So anyway, lo and behold, my daughter, who alhamdulillah for our children, they know no prejudice. They know no difference between peoples. They just want to enjoy life and have good friends, and that's it. Right. So my daughter, she's in the first, second grade, something like that. And there was a boy in her class who was actually from Afghanistan. I actually became friends with his family after I became a Muslim. But so it was this little boy, and his mom came to pick him up one day. and she came to the class. Well, of course, she's dressed like a hijabi Muslima, right? All the way, head to toe. And my daughter thought that it was really, because she had all these colors on and stuff. So my daughter was like, wow, that's really nice looking. That's a really neat outfit, right? But why has she got so much clothes on, right? And so my daughter kept it to herself, but she's like, okay, wait a minute. Dad's been all over the world. He might know. So I'll ask him what the whats and the whys and whatever, right? So she said that to me, and I just went off. I said all kinds of nasty things, and was basically that one person that talks trash about minorities or just other groups of people, right? I never had any prejudice as far as white, black, brown, nothing like that. My thing was, as long as you were an American citizen, I could care less what color you were. But if you were not a citizen and you were here on a visit or something like that, my two questions were, why are you here and when are you leaving? That's just the way I felt. So she came home and told me, and like I said, I went off, and she looked at me. She gave me that look like, oh my gosh, my father lost his mind. Right. And it was a questioning look, because she's like, do I really love this guy? This is not my daddy. This is not my daddy who I love and everything. Right. And it struck me. That's the first time I'd ever realized that, whoa, wait a minute. This does affect other people. It doesn't just affect me, So I decided, you know what? I still believe what I believe. And I still think I need to go through with this plan, but I want to make sure. That these are the Muslims that deserve to be eradicated, and maybe these are the people that are just confused but they're good people, right? And so we'll go see. So I, knowing what I knew about Islam, I knew they have their meetings on Fridays. Went in there for their Jummah service. Walked in. There was an African-American guy. He was the only one there because I got there early. It's a military thing. I always got to be early. So he looks at me and I look at him and he smiles and he says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." I says, "I want you to teach me about Islam." And he goes, "Well, how long do you got?" I said, "I got a couple hours." He just kind of laughed and he said, "Well, we'll give it a shot." And so he invited me into the prayer room and said, "This is what's going to happen, da 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 da." And he sat me in the back of the room. There was a bench, and I sat down and listened to the service. And I was like, man, this is really good what they're saying. This is good. This is what people need to hear, right? But they're just saying it because I'm here. Yeah, that's not the truth, right? And then all of a sudden, this is the funniest thing. I laugh at myself on how ignorant I was, but I actually got a flash. I got a real funny feeling in my stomach. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I am the only non-Muslim in this room. Right. Oh, Lord, I'm going to end up on Al Jazeera with a sword in my throat. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, my gosh. And now it just tickles me because I'm like, oh, what an idiot, to think like that. But anyway, so after the Jummah, they introduced me to another guy closer to my age. We sat in the library. There was a couch in there, and we sat down and we talked a little bit. And he asked me, he says, "Have you ever read the Quran?" I said, and of course, inside I'm laughing. I'm like I would ever read that book, right? But I was like, no, actually, I haven't. See, because you have to understand, when I went in there, I introduced myself. I was kind of undercover. I introduced myself as somebody who just wanted to know a little bit more about Islam. What is this thing about, right? And so that's the way they treated me. Very nice. So he asked me if I had ever read the Quran, and I said, nope, sure haven't. And he goes over to the bookshelf and he grabs the Quran and he gives it to me. He says, "I want you to take this home. I want you to read it at your leisure. Come back when you have questions. Ask us." because there probably will be some questions that'll come up there, and it's some things that do need to be explained a little bit, because you can't just read them and just take them for what they say. You have to understand times and everything, right? And what was going on at the time. So basically, he was warning me not to contextualize. If I have a question, feel free to come back and ask us. Well, I did. It wasn't Ramadan, so I was actually there more often than most of the Muslims. I always tell that because it's like, during Ramadan, everybody goes to the mosque, but any other time, you have a few brothers show up here and there. Alhamdulillah, may Allah forgive us. But so I went back. I would read things and I would be like, I'd come across something and I'd be like, yeah, this is the one everybody's talking about. Kill all the non-believers, right? It says that. Yeah. And so, hey, this is it right here, man. I'm gonna go get my stuff tonight. This place is going up tomorrow. Got him right here, right? And so I went back and I was very composed. I was like, hey, I this is a verse I've heard before, and this is one that's really puzzled me. Well, can you explain this? And I might think, I can't wait for this explanation. This is going to be funny, And so they explained it. And it was, I was contextualizing that one verse and not reading what come before and what come after to give the explanation. When at the time, non-believers had nothing to do with Christians or Jews, nothing at all. It was about the pagans. It was about the Meccans. It was about the Koresh, right? That's
what I always tell Christians who kind of misquote this verse as referring to Jews and Christians, because in the Quran we have the Jews and Christians that are referred to as people of the book, which was a different respect altogether, and disbelievers were different people altogether. So you get a lot of Christians and who kind of take this verse and apply that to them.
Yeah.
So carry on anyway.
So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now, even though I was non-religious, I was well versed on Christianity. I read the Bible, and I remember in the Old Testament when there was one of the prophets was supposedly told by God that to invade this city and to kill every living thing. Okay, so I remember. Yeah, so that's kind of okay. I get that. Not that, that was something that was just whatever. But it was more a historical thing. Okay, this is how we go from here. And what it did, it segued the whole, this is how we act in war, right? So that was the segue to getting into how we act in war.
And you having been a soldier, I think you could put it more into context, because you'd been to war. And when you read this now and you compare it to the Bible as well, the command has been given to attack the whole people and whatever. And you as a soldier, when you look at it now, you can contextualize it kind of thing.
Absolutely. It made sense to me. So as I'm reading on, the other things I'm grasping out of there is like the laws of war, right? Which also the Bible has their own version too, right? Every book has it. And as American soldiers, we actually are governed by what's called the land of war, or the law of land warfare, right? Which is basically the do's and don'ts, is the legality of what your actions during war, right? So, and that has a lot to do with basically, well, in America would be basically what it says in the Bible. It honestly does. So as I'm reading, I'm like, okay, during times of war, you don't aggress. First and foremost, you're not supposed to be aggressive anyway. It's a defensive thing. You're supposed to defend yourself. You have full right to defend yourself. But if you do attack someone, you don't attack them with any more force than was used against you, right? And also you don't injure the elderly. You don't injure the females. You don't injure the children. You don't destroy any religious structures. Now, it doesn't say Islamic structures. It says religious structures, right? So that would include churches, synagogues, what have you, okay? Well, and so I'm thinking back to being overseas and seeing the things I've seen, and I was like, those fools that I fought against overseas did all that within an hour. I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, wait a minute. Okay, so they are not really representatives of what Islam is. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I might have had this whole thing wrong, you know? And it's funny because you had said that, and because I was asked this by an older friend of mine that presented me with this question, because you had said earlier in this podcast that I was sent to fight the Muslims. Well, I wasn't fighting the Muslims. I was fighting the bad guys. Mm-hmm. Maybe at one point in their life, they were the same. I don't know. That's not for me to question. Of course, I can't say they weren't Muslims, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. But that wasn't what I was fighting. I was fighting these people doing bad things. Okay. And so, as I read on, I get to, verses such as, to kill one human being is as if you killed all of humanity, but to save one human being is as if you saved all of humanity. And I'm like, whoa. And that just opened it all up for me. Now, like I said, I'd read the Bible. Mm-hmm. You hear people say that, especially Christians who are like, they use the term born again or, whatever they say. The Bible touches them in their heart. It never did that to me. Never did that. It was a good story. That's the way I looked at it, But when I read the Quran, man, it made sense. It really opened up things and it made sense to me. And it's like, whoa, I had this thing all wrong. This is actually a superior way to live your life, is what this whole book is explaining. It's explaining a better way to live your life, a better way to believe in things, a positive way to carry your life out. I need this. Oh my gosh, I can't believe what I was about to do. I need this in my life. So, it had been 8 weeks. 8 weeks. I went back to the masjid on a Jummah, and I got a couple of the brothers cornered, a couple older brothers, and I says, brothers, it's the first time I ever called them brothers too. Brothers, I want to take Shahada today. And they look at me. This is funny.
Had any of these people known your past? Had any of them known that you'd gone to fight them, and had any of them had an idea that you were an Islamophobe or anything prior to that?
No. They all knew that I was a retired military guy and that I had been in some of the same countries they were from and stuff like that. They all knew that. They had no idea about my plan. I didn't tell anyone about my plan.
Not your plan of blowing out the masjid, but somebody when somebody's an Islamophobe, you will hear them making comments and talking about Islam in a derogatory way. So had any of them known you as that type of person, and now you're standing up in front of the masjid and you're saying, I want to take Shahada?
Never. I walked in as somebody who wanted to learn. That's it.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
So I tell them this. I tell them, hey, brothers, I want to take Shahada today. And this is hilarious because they look at me, they look at each other, and simultaneously they go, no.
They don't believe it or what?
Yeah, I'm like, what do you mean no? I'm like, oh man, well, so much for that whole belief that convert or die, right? Because these guys don't even want me. So I'm like, okay, and they were very honest in their reason for saying that, and I told they said, well, brother, we are so happy for you that you feel that way, but you have more to learn. So I looked them right in the eye and I said, don't we all? and they're kind of like, he got us. Okay, come on, let's go. So we took shahada, right? And from there, it was just, it was like a weight was lifted off me, man. It was
and that was the same masjid you had planned to destroy. Yeah?
Yes, that was actually the only one I knew of here. I mean, in the town I live in, there's only the one, but there's others if you go to another town or whatever. But that was the only one I even knew of. And so it was just like a weight was lifted off of me, man. It was so nice. It's like the hatred was just it was like sweat. It was just coming out of my pores. It was leaving me, It was great, man. It was great. I wish shahada was like almost something you could do all the time, because it's such a relieving kind of thing, It just takes so much out of you, so much negativity and darkness from you,
Right. When you look back now and you think of the hatred that you had, and had that plan not been had you not walked into the masjid and tried to find out, and you'd undergone your plan, things would have been totally different, you see. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of like I said earlier on in the beginning, that Allah's plan is different and our plan is different. You went there with a specific plan. Umar bin Khattab went with a specific plan to kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah gave him hidayah. So Allah's plan, what Allah plans, we cannot stop that. Yeah. So had your plan actually taken place, the story would have been different now.
Oh, absolutely.
You wouldn't be sitting here telling me your reversion to Islam. No. You see? So we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works wonders. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works wonders, and how you had one plan without knowing Islam, without knowing about religion or whatever. You traveled to foreign countries. You've met Muslims. You fought against them. Supposedly Muslims or whatever, people who didn't follow. But then when you actually picked up that book itself, the Quran, and read it, and you found the truth.
Mashallah, that was it. Yeah.
Mashallah, exactly. It's amazing, because when you see today, there's so many people who have so much hatred for Islam without even knowing what Islam means. You know, some people some people are against the Sharia. What does the Sharia mean? They don't even know, but they're against it. They don't want it. Exactly. They don't want to hear the Sharia, but they don't know what it is. You ask them to define it, they don't know what it is. Right. And here you were, somebody who traveled, who'd been to Muslim countries, who was in the armies, who was so hyped up, and you come back, you retire. Now your plan is, I'm going to blow up this masjid. And suddenly, slowly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans, and Allah changes you completely, changes your heart completely.
Right.
Today you are a Muslim.
Today I'm a Muslim, and I was a non-high school graduate. Now I have 2 degrees. So,
MashaAllah.
So,
you have degree in what?
I have a degree in social work and a degree in criminal justice.
Oh, mashallah. Oh, yeah. Criminal justice, good. Alhamdulillah. We have one brother here who's actually in the among the viewers, who I was going to invite in anyway, Brother Charles, who took his shahada about 7 weeks ago. He was actually in forensic. What's the name? He worked in forensics.
Forensic
so
science.
I've given him the link. Yeah. I've sent you the link, Brother Charles. If you want to come and join us, he's you're more than welcome. You can just click. Brother Charles is actually took his shahada 7 weeks ago. He'd been studying Islam for a while, and for 35 years. And then, like you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him hidayah. So he became a Muslim, and alhamdulillah, he's a brand new baby in Islam. So so I'm just waiting for him to come up. I've sent him the link, and he's with us here, Brother Charles Doyle. So and we have Brother Smith here as well, who is actually a Sikh, an ex-Sikh, who's actually an ex-Sikh from Malaysia. Brother Smith Charles, who actually he was on my show as well a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, we have Brother Charles here. Brother Charles, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
How you doing, bro?
I am good.
Good, alhamdulillah. Yeah. So here we have brother Richard, who's told us his story on how he actually turned from as an Islamophobe, somebody who went to fight in Muslim countries with a plan to bomb an actual masjid, and in that same masjid, Allah gave him hidayah. Allah gave him guidance in that same masjid that he had planned to get rid of, to destroy. If he had destroyed that masjid, neither would he be on my show today, nor would there have been a masjid there. You know. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept the masjid and opened his heart to Islam. So we see the great plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there.
Yeah, I'm actually familiar with him.
Right.
Alhamdulillah.
Good. So,
hey, brother.
Yes.
Yes. How are you?
All right.
So how's it coming along with your learning Islam and stuff?
It's going good. I was a Christian for 35 years, so I know the Bible really well. But I'm learning a lot. I've got several books that I'm going through one at a time, and stuff like that. And then of course I have several people that are helping me. So.
Alhamdulillah.
How easy was it for you to do your prayer? Make salah. How easy was that? Because I got my own story to trying to learn Al-Fatiha and stuff.
Well, I actually learned Al-Fatiha back in soon after 2001.
So
because I had actually started going to a mosque and stuff like that back then. I just it just never fermented into anything that was lasting.
Understand.
But I learned Al-Fatiha, but the prayer I still am having to learn, and then I use a transliteration in order to do the other. To do the other surahs, but as far as Al-Fatiha, I can do that usually by memory.
Right. We have Brother Mossi, who's in the Wasalim as well among the viewers, and I think he's not a Muslim yet, and he's still searching. I think he's a friend of Brother Charles, and
yes.
He says here that he's got his Quran and he's reading, alhamdulillah, so may Allah make easy for him. Yeah.
It's ironic though how, because I actually served as an active duty Marine from 90 to 94.
Oh, okay.
Never went overseas. I actually was sent. Actually, Iraq invaded Kuwait 9 days after I went to boot camp.
Desert Storm, then. Yes.
Yep. But I never went over. I actually was at Marine Corps Air Station Tustin for my entire time.
Okay, I was a California Marine. Well, I actually went to Parris Island for boot camp because I
did too.
Yeah, and then I was stationed out on the West Coast most of my time. So yeah,
right.
So yeah, it was good. All right, Semper Fi.
Brother Hasmit, if you've got your sound sorted out and you want to join us, please feel free to click on the link there, and maybe you can have a word with the brother, and if you have any questions for him as well, because his story is a pretty amazing story, because it's not like the normal. It's not like the normal brother who normal person who his path to Islam. He actually went through a different path and was about to do something that was going to change the whole thing. Change the whole circumstances. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent guidance to him in the same place that he was going to destroy. And, so it's an amazing story, actually. So if you want to join us as well, Brother Hasmit, you're welcome. Yeah, sorry, carry on, Brother Charles.
So, no, I was asking about Salah because I remember when I first started out. Now this is over a decade ago. I mean, I have memory problems, so I my memorization is very bad. Alhamdulillah, Allah will help me on this. But when it comes to this saying basic prayer, I actually started out using index cards I would stand in my positions and hold the index card off and read it, and use the transliteration, right, or my own transliteration, because the ones in the Quran, they don't make any sense to me. I don't get them, so I have to like make my own up, and it's kind of funny. I tell that everybody tells me, well, that's good, no problem, So, but did we have the other brother come on, or
I'm just waiting and see if because he had some sound problems before, so right. So now, brother, the masjid that you're actually that same masjid, you're actually the president of that masjid now. Yeah, I understand. Former president. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Former president of that masjid.
Yes, I was finishing college, and I had to do an internship, and I just didn't have time. Elections were coming up, and I didn't run for another post. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what else? I mean, it's we went a bit fast through the story, kind of thing,
Yeah.
So anyway,
he held on to that one. He held on to that one issue that we haven't. I don't think we really went over.
Right. Which issue?
If he was getting into something, and you said that you were gonna ask him about it.
My mind as well is closed.
Yeah, I remember. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, I've got a memory issue as well that I'd like.
Was it the actual plan?
Well, I can't really talk about the actual plan.
Yeah.
No. All right.
Legal reasons.
Yeah.
Right. But I have a bit of a memory issue as well. I can't remember him. But there was something that he was telling me, and I said to him, I was just about to ask you about that.
Yeah.
And then
I'll tell you what. I'll go back and I'll listen for it, and I'll come back to you.
Right. Okay. So in the meantime, brother, tell us now. So now you how long now since you've been a Muslim?
2009.
2009. Okay. So 2009. So you've been a Muslim for a while now. Yeah. And the thing is that explain to me, as a person who's from Britain. I mean, I was born and raised in the UK. I know that 9/11 had a big impact on Americans, yeah, and like somebody like you wanted to be a hero, and but how easy was it for Americans to fall for that storyline?
For a lot of us, it was fairly easy,
Right.
Somebody had definitely sucker punched us, and that was easy to grasp a hold of.
Right.
Without knowing any of the background, and looking at it as just, these people killing innocent civilians, right? Leaving it at that, just and not looking deeper into it to understand better. Because I mean, I will never condone what happened. Absolutely not.
Of course. None of us would.
But there's an understanding that makes things a lot clearer, to the whys and the what fors. Either way you go, it's a tragedy. There's no way you can justify it. I don't feel. But the justifications that they use help with understanding what it was.
Right. It was actually the question that I was asking you before was why did you hate Muslims? What was the hatred started before 9/11, isn't it? Or after 9/11?
Many years before that, and
What was it that got you to dislike Muslims? Because it was 9/11 that actually portrayed Muslims as the evil ones. Prior to that, I don't know much in the States how Muslims were portrayed, but after 9/11, all the Muslims were evil, all the Arabs were evil, and everything and stuff like that. So prior to that, now you being somebody who hasn't had any contact with Muslims apart from being traveling abroad and getting to know Muslims, what got you to actually hate them?
Well, so I was very upset about 9/11, of course, and there was a little bit that started with that, but it grew over time, after 9/11, then I went on active duty, and then I get to go to these countries that are populated by Muslims. And one of the first stops I made was Bosnia.
Right.
Not knowing much about the whole situation in Bosnia, but I was actually very, very upset because when I went there finding out that we were there actually to protect the Muslims. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But being a good soldier, and them say jump, I say how high. That's, I'm like, whatever. I remember an instance in Bosnia. There was actually two instances that really put into perspective my hatred.
Right.
So we got called into a town. Now, if you know anything about Bosnia, it was a Serbian populated town within Bosnia. Okay. And without knowing any of the past politics, that's really a long story to try to explain. But it was a Serbian town within Bosnia, meaning that it was populated mostly by people with Serbian background, with the Christian Orthodox belief and, that ethnicity. So we had found out that there was a mass grave there. And so investigators got called in to basically dig it up and investigate. This is all part of getting evidence for the trials that were still going on, right? For the that were done in The Hague. So we went in there, and it was kind of interesting to watch it. And me with my rank, I actually got to watch them. I sent all my guys out. We made a perimeter around the position. Nobody comes in. Nobody. Traffic stopped. Nobody comes in here. This is off limits. Because we wanted to make sure that this investigation team, which were all civilian, would be unharmed, right? So this one lady comes up to me. She was of African descent, but she was from England, so she had that British accent, which I always thought was really it's just something that just is very intriguing to me to see a black person with an English accent. It was really neat, right? So she comes up to me and she goes. She's kind of distraught, and she comes up to me and I got all my gear on. I got my rifle across my chest and I'm smoking a cigarette. And she goes, "Isn't it just terrible what human beings do to each other?" I'm like, "Not really." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "They're all Muslim." She was just blown away that I had that attitude. I mean, there's 250 bodies that they had accounted for in that grave, men, women, and children. And my whole thing was, who cares? They're Muslim. She was just blown away. Now, another interesting story. I usually open up I try to open up some of my talks with this to explain hatred to people, because hatred is it's a misused word. It's a common word. It's almost like hi. It's used and people, it's lost its actual connotation, which has made people numb to it. And so when I describe pure hatred, I talk about an interpreter I had in Bosnia. I had my very own interpreter, and I was very happy about that, very egotistical about that. I guess, I got my own interpreter. It was a young Bosnian girl. Okay. Her family was Muslim, which to me, she's Muslim then. But she wasn't practicing. She was like a lot of European Muslims. They don't really practice, maybe the way they should. That's not for me to judge. So but it's just what I saw. So anyway, very nice girl. We got to know each other. She took me and her team back to meet her family, which are very much practicing Muslims, except for the plum brandy. They had their plum brandy, but that's another story. But I mean, they were, the women wore hijab, the older men went to the mosque, and and so of course I kept my composure, and I cared about this girl because I cared about her because she took care of us. That's the thing. Interpreters, when you build that relationship with an interpreter, they take care of you as you take care of them, and it's a teamwork thing. And I remember being in Bosnia and talking with a police chief one time, and the police chief had said some very derogatory things. I actually pulled out my pistol and pointed it at him and said, "You will shut your mouth if you have nothing good to say."
Right.
Bad to my interpreter, right? So I'm posed with the question one day. Well, what about Sarah? That was her name. What about Sarah? You like Sarah, man? Because these are my friends that are asking me about why I hated Islam so much, why I hated Muslims.
Right.
Because I actually had on my screensaver, that said, Islam is a cancer, right?
Subhanallah.
So they were asking me that. They said, what about Sarah, man? You say you want to kill all these Muslims, but she's good to us, man. And you like her. I said, you know what? I do, man. I do like her. We would actually do radio interviews together. Okay. And because I was sent out for a PR thing, and I would do interviews on Bosnian radios. We would hold hands because that was our thing. She would squeeze my hand when she needed me to stop talking so she could interpret. And then she squeezed it again when it was okay for me to start talking again, because I just keep on talking, right? So that was our little thing. And of course we got teased about it. And, oh, you guys are holding hands. That's so sweet, stuff like that. That was how we worked, right? So I said, the thing is, I really do like her, man. I care about her, dude. I really do. And as long as she's with me and she's working with me, she will not be harmed. But when the time is right and the opportunity comes up, she still has to go. But I'll do it myself. I'll make sure she feels no pain.
Right.
And I'm like, man, dude.
So although you were friends with her, but you still had that feeling to actually get rid of her?
Oh yeah, she had to go. She was part of the problem, even though she wasn't a practicing Muslim. She was part of the problem.
Right.
It's kind of like
so for you at the time, Islam and Muslims was the actual problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It was kind of like the Nazis during World War II.
Right.
Even though they just saw that all of Judaism, all the Jews had to die. They had to get rid of them, man. They had to get rid of them.
Right. Interesting. So then afterwards, after Bosnia, then you moved to other countries. You still with that same hatred, yeah?
Oh yeah. I went to Afghanistan and Iraq, and things I saw, especially Afghanistan.
Now, accordingly, the Bosnians were Europeans. Now you move to the Arabs, the Muslims. The really evil ones. Now, was that hatred even worse now?
Oh yeah, it got worse in Afghanistan.
Right. Okay.
And now, knowing what I know now, I see that what turned me off so much and made me hate more was the fact that there's so much culturalism that's put into the religion there.
Right.
And that does not, it's their way of life, but to say that's Islamic is wrong. Okay. So there has to be that understanding, because that's not Islam. That's the way they live.
Right.
And they're trying to be Muslim as best they can. So, and like all of us, we try to be as Muslim as we can be. And sometimes we fall short, right? And that's why we pray so much. That's what I tell people. I say, because we understand that we're not perfect. That's why Muslims pray all the time. We have to.
Yes.
So with that knowledge, man, it just festered up more and more, and then, going to Iraq, it was such a culture shock. I mean, it was because here, and this is the thing, I'm one of the veterans that is outspoken to the fact that we had no reason to go to Iraq, none whatsoever.
Right.
None.
Do you have a lot of opposition for that? Those who kind of think that we are right to have gone into Iraq and everything, and now we've done what we needed to do, and then you come up with what you just said, that you don't think that you should have gone into Iraq. So how? I mean, there should be. I'm sure there's a lot of opposition to that in the States, because some of them, like you said in the beginning, thought that they were heroes, and until today, some people still think that they were heroes, having gone into Iraq and everything. So the medals that they got and everything. So
because in the bigger picture, we did not do any good by the Iraqi people. We made their life worse.
Yes, yeah.
You know, granted, I think most people that have a IQ above 30 will tell you, yes, Saddam was not a good guy. Okay, we realize that. But I kind of compare him to like when you go on a picnic and you got this fly that won't go away. He's that fly, you know. He's not really hurting anything, but boy, he is irritating. You know.
But did you fall for this weapons of mass destruction thing and all that stuff? You know, as a soldier being there and like, you know, where are the weapons? Where are the weapons of mass destruction? You know, I'm going in there as a soldier and like, you know, I'm gonna have to find these weapons of mass destruction. You know, so
right.
Did you fall for that rhetoric? I mean,
being a Desert Storm veteran, okay. And being like in areas of like where the oil fires were and stuff like that, you know, being around that, you know, first of all, I knew he had very, very nasty weaponry like that, right? Because he used it. Everybody knew that. He used it on the Kurds and everything else, right? So, I mean, he's used it before, but did he have this mass surplus supply somewhere? I never believed that, simply because he never used it on us.
Right.
Why wouldn't he use it on us? I mean, he said
it would have been easy. It would have been easy to just get rid of you guys just by using it on you and finishing you off, kind of thing, you know.
He knew he was losing. He knew he lost Kuwait. He knew that. So why not? Last ditch effort, you know. It's like I'm going to lose. Well, I'm taking somebody with me. You know. Yeah. I mean, and why wouldn't he? So it was like having this mass surplus of these weapons. I never really believed that. Did he have some? Yes, but not that many, you know, and not in the quantity that he would need to really do anything to a large landmass, you know. And to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if he used all of them up on the Kurds. I mean, really. But whatever. I personally, my opinion, and my opinion only, is that G.W. Bush did that and wanted to do that simply because Saddam had put a price on his dad's head.
Right. Okay. So it was a personal vendetta then.
I think it was. I think that played in it a lot, and he was just basically given an open door after 9/11.
Right.
Because with that statement, if you're not with us, you're against us.
Yeah. Right.
So, you know, but I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. Right. But you know, that's just the way I feel personally.
Right. Have you when you were in Iraq? I'm sure you'd known people there. You'd like, you know, made. I mean, although you were against Islam, but you must have known people there. You might have made friends there. Have you, when you've come to Islam now, have you managed to kind of like, you know, keep some contact with these people? Do they know now that the same guy who came there with, you know, to fight Iraqis, he is now a Muslim kind of thing? You know?
You mean like the other soldiers and stuff?
No, in Iraq, the soldiers that were like, you know, maybe in Iraq, like that were collaborating with the Americans, kind of thing, that were working with translators and stuff like that, like, you know, who were helping the American army. Now these people, now when they knew you were not a Muslim. You came there as an American soldier. Now you come back to your country, you retire and everything, like, you know, do you still have contact with some of these people who now remember, oh, we remember this guy, we remember Richard before Richard came, now he's a Muslim kind of thing. Do you still have these contacts with these people?
No, I never had friendships while I was there. As far as like, I mean, I was good to the interpreters. I made sure that you know, that was a big deal to me because I knew that they was helping us out, but I was always leery because this is the time when the interpreters start turning on some of the American forces. So I was leery. So it's like I always had, you know, it's like I told my guys, always keep a bullet for the interpreter.
Right.
You know, because
although in Bosnia you kind of like, you know, was in very good terms with the interpreter there. So in Iraq it's a total different kettle of fish then.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So, but that actually opens up the door to my relationships after becoming a Muslim.
Right.
That changed a lot. I was actually still in the military awaiting my retirement to go through.
Right.
I was still a member of the military. And even though I wasn't doing anything, I was at home. I was just getting a paycheck. They called me in. Well, and I went in to go get dog tags made because on your dog tags they have your religion.
Mm-hmm.
So before it always said no preference, right? Because I didn't care. It didn't matter, whatever.
Right.
And so now I went ahead. I wanted to make sure that was changed. I didn't feel comfortable having no preference on my dog tags being a Muslim now. So I went in and got Islam put on my dog tags. And
Right.
because the guy knew me that makes the dog tags, and he's like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm like, no, man, I'm really serious. So you
were still in the military while you weren't fully retired after you accepted Islam then?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So you were still having to have your dog tags and everything.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I didn't have to. It was just something I wanted to do because
okay. Right.
I wasn't going anywhere. It's not like I really needed dog tags for their purpose because I wasn't going anywhere. But so yeah, and then finally I told him. And anyway, long story short, within a couple of weeks after that, they took my security clearance away. Right.
Right.
Now there's actually a lot to that because technically I didn't need a security clearance anyway, and they should have already taken it away because I was getting out. Right. I didn't need it. There was no reason for me to have one, right? And trust me, I didn't want to know anything they were keeping secret anyway, because that just raises a whole other issue. So that happened. A lot of my so-called military friends that were really more associates than friends were, they kind of like, they didn't hold it against me. But see, the thing is that we were still of that military mindset. Our whole off time consisted of drinking and womanizing. So we did. Well,
sorry.
So it was drinking and womanizing. Well, I'm a Muslim. I don't do that anymore. So it's kind of like we didn't really have anything to do together. So the relationships kind of just faded away, right? Because they wanted to keep doing that, which at our age was beginning to get a little bit creepy because we were getting older. We were in our 40s, right? And that's weird. But and then of course my family, that was the biggest thing. My family, first of all, my wife at the time, which we have divorced now. There's a lot behind that, whatever it may be. I don't need to talk about it. She's a wonderful person, a wonderful human being. I have nothing bad to say about her. It's just our ideas of how we want to live our life are completely different. And, I feel on both sides that we would be holding each other back from the way we want to be. So we're divorced now. So I came home, and now you got to understand something. My wife at the time knew that I hated Muslims, but she also knows that I'm going to the mosque all the time. I'm reading the Quran. I'm watching videos on YouTube, both the good and the bad ones, right? And I'm like, she's very anxious. She thought I had something planned or was trying to work a plan up, right? And she had no idea because she had no idea. I'm like most husbands. I don't tell my wife anything, right? So she didn't know. She had no idea. And I come home after I took Shahada. I never told her I was taking Shahada. Right. So I come back, I plop down on the couch. Well, like you get home from a hard day's work, right? Just plop down on the couch going, oh. And because, I just felt that way, like everything had been lifted from me. And she looks at me and she goes, so did everything go okay? She's wondering if I did something while I was there, right? And I'm like, oh, today's wonderful. And she goes, really? Well, that's good to hear. I said, yeah, today I took Shahada. And she's like, you should what? and I said, Shahada. So, you know, in my infantile Islamic knowledge, I tried to explain it the best way I could, how, you know, it was a declaration of faith. And, you know, you say it. And after that, you basically become a Muslim, right? That's the thing, right? You're now a Muslim. And she goes, so you're a Muslim? I says,
a Muslim.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I am. I said, and I couldn't be happier. Well, now she starts getting defensive because I've just rocked her world. She don't know what to think now, right? And she goes, well, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm not putting anything around my head. And I just kind of sat there. I was like, and I just kind of sat there and I said, well, you're not a Muslim. It's really not even a conversation unless you just want to do your hair for some reason. I don't know. And so we started talking, and she's trying to understand this, why I would do something like this coming from a person who hated him so bad, you know? And she says, and another thing, if you want more than one wife, I won't be one of them.
Right. This is a misconception that many of them have. I mean, I've spoken about this before. It's like, you know, a very big misconception.
And I'm thinking, well, I have a wife now, and I don't want to go through this 4 times. There's no way I'm getting another wife. No, this isn't happening, man. So I'm definitely a one wife kind of guy. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so you know, so we went on, and she had some adjusting to do, and it was a struggle. But 4 years after I became a Muslim, we went to a lecture at the university here, in the same university that, well, we actually both went to that university. It's right here in the town we live in. And we went there. It was an Islamic lecture. And after the lecture, her and my daughter both took Shahada.
MashaAllah.
So we're driving home. And of course, you know, I'm just like blown away. I had no idea. I had no idea that, you know, to me, it's like, oh my gosh, man, she's making this religion a lot harder than it needs to be. Right. You know? So we're driving home, and I said, well, you're a Muslim now. She goes, yes. And I'm happy.
So you are going to wrap this thing around your head now, yeah?
Well, no, I didn't ask that.
I mean, she said, I'm not going to wrap this thing around my head. Now she's become a Muslim. She will be wearing hijab, obviously.
Right. So I said, well, you're a Muslim now. She goes, yes, and I'm happy. I said, well, now about that more than one wife thing. That was a very short conversation.
Right. Okay.
She was still not going for that. But anyway, so down the road, probably about 6 months, she just could not do it anymore. She just couldn't, you know, as far as practicing, she's, like I said, she's a wonderful person, man. A very wonderful, wonderful human being. But she is not the type of person to be held to a regimen like that, you know, because Islam is not, you know, just a fly-by-night kind of thing. It's a way of life. You know, it's not just a belief in God. It's much more than that.
Yeah, you know? Of course. Islam is a way of life, basically.
Exactly. So, and she just wasn't willing to put that into it. And that's when a lot of problems started. And then, you know, later on, she wanted to live more by the dunya. Mm-hmm. When I wanted to live less by the dunya. Right. You know, and so that was the big conflict. That was a big conflict. You know, nobody did anything wrong. You know, there was no you know.
Brother Charles, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, you can jump in anytime you want. If there's anything you want to discuss with the brother about, like, you know.
Oh, I'm enjoying it. I've actually been laughing like crazy. So
have I, until I did like church as well, you know.
I know. Yeah, I had to turn off my mic so I wouldn't laugh out loud.
Right. Okay, so if there's anything you want to jump in and ask the brother, like, it's a great pleasure having him on. And actually, if I use the British English, having somebody on is to be like, pulling somebody's leg. So if somebody tells you, thanks for having me on, I'll say, I'm not having you on. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So anyway, if there's anything else you want to discuss with the brother about, or if Brother Mosi, I think Mosi, who is actually reading the Quran, and he's a friend of Brother Charles. If there's anything you would like to ask the brother as well, maybe that would be some sort of influence to you that would make your journey to Islam easier. You're welcome to join us.
What I'd like to know is, have you been able to travel to any Muslim countries since and experience them in a different way now that you're a Muslim?
I have not. I've been kind of busy here, and of course having the family dynamics that I had at the time just were not allowing of that. It's like me. It was bad enough when I started traveling and giving talks and lectures and stuff. There was a lot of there was a lot, and she admitted to it, but there was jealousy because it's like I was when I started out, I was in 2 or 3 different cities in a week. I actually had to quit my job. Wow. It was, I'm always leaving and I'm always going here, and people are always treating me like I'm, putting me on a pedestal, which I try to, tell them, they call me sheik, they call me, or they call me sheikh and imam and this, and I'm like, no, that's not me, man. I said, I'm no sheikh, and I'm definitely not an imam.
I'm a milkshake,
Yeah.
When anybody calls me sheikh, I said I'm just a milkshake,
I had a TSA employee one time ask me, and I got this off Yusuf Estes. Yeah, I copied one of his lines. I got asked by a TSA employee. It says, "So what kind of Muslim are you?" I knew what he was asking for, right? But I was like, I just smiled at him and said, "I'm a fat white Muslim." So. It's been interesting. Hopefully, this, it seems like we're starting to get a little bit of control over this COVID thing, inshallah, and maybe I can start traveling again. And I would like to go to different places. I was actually asked to come to, because, here's the thing. See, this whole thing that kind of like made me studio famous was it was the video that came out and was made by a Jewish guy. This Jewish guy that has this series. It's called The Secret Life of Muslims, right? And it's basically the secret is that we're like everybody else. We're not these these people that you have in your mind, right? So that was the thing. I was on the 2nd season, but the thing is, it's not a TV series. It's an internet series. Mm-hmm. So it was only supposed to be on the internet, and I was on the 2nd season, and everybody that was in that season had a different week. Each one was coming out every week, right? And when my week came up to come out, he called me at work, and he said, "So how's it going? Your show's about ready to come out." And he said, I got some information for you, and I hope you're happy about it. You are going to be on the internet series, but you're also going to be on TV. And I was like, what? Right. He says, yeah. He says, believe it or not, you're going to be on CBS Sunday morning. I was like, what? Mm-hmm. What happened was, and I don't know, I don't know how to think about this, if this was part of Allah's plan to maybe get me out there more, but they had that shooting in New Zealand, Christchurch, mm-hmm. A week or 2 before my video was slated to come out. Josh, being a filmmaker like he is, he has a lot of friends. Well, one of his friends happens to be the president of CBS. He took my video to CBS and had her watch it, and she goes, "Josh, this is going on my Sunday morning program." because of the correlation, you know, how it happened, where this guy with committed this atrocity, and here I was, actually the same guy, but I made the change.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. In your case, there was that change happened just before you can actually execute your plan.
Absolutely.
Just before you can execute your plan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had better plans for you. But whereas that guy there, he executed his plan, kind of thing, like, you know. So yeah.
So so that's what started it all off, and you know, it was like it was just I was just blown away. I'm like, you know, because I would tell people, you know, it's like, I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy. I got a story. Today, everybody wants to hear it. Tomorrow, maybe not so much, you know. But I'm going to do what I can with that to you know, put my plan into place. And my plan, which I also feel is Allah's plan, is to bring some peace and understanding to people. You know, work against hatred, work against ignorance and misunderstandings. You know, I was at a crossroads during the beginnings of my speaking, because I was having issues on making decisions. Should I stay at work? Should I keep my job? Or should I just try to do this speaking as much as I can? Because I couldn't do both. I was running out all these vacation days at work, and I couldn't take any more time. And so I was at my last actual speaking engagement that I could be at without losing my job. And it was at the JFK Library in Boston, Massachusetts. I gave a lecture there. Because I was waiting on my plane, I had hours to kill before my plane was leaving. So I decided, hey, I'm at the JFK Library. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to check this place out. You know, this is interesting. And as I'm walking, a guy comes up to me out of nowhere. He says, sir, I want to tell you something. I want to thank you so much for your talk today. Now, he wasn't even in the group that I was talking to. He was a passerby that heard me and stopped. He said, to be honest with you, you saved my life today. And I said, well, brother, I said, I'm glad, but you got to explain to me how I did that. I don't know how I saved your life. And he says, well, let me tell you a little bit of the story. My wife left me. She took the kids. I can't see the kids. And she's living with another man right now. Today, he said, I have lived in Boston my whole life, and I have never been to the JFK Library. And he said, so I came here today because tonight I plan to kill myself.
Oh, subhanallah.
I was like, to this day, I still do not know how to take that. I still, because, you know, it's like, you know, I didn't set out to do that, of course. And the fact that the guy who was going to do it is actually telling me that I did is like, whoa. This is major league stuff here. This is not just me talking about my story. This is serious stuff.
Yes.
And so, you know, so I said, well, brother, I said, I hope that I hope that my words did affect you in a positive way. And I hope that, you choose a good path for yourself. And he says, absolutely. He said, because I listened to you, and it made me understand that even though we may be living a wrong way of life and thinking the wrong things, we have purposes here. And the true sin is not living life to your purpose. And that's exactly what I said in my lecture. That's a true sin. I don't care what religion you subscribe to. If you do not live your life to the purpose that you was given to do, you are committing a sin. Now, you may not, but it's not because you didn't try to figure out what that purpose was. And you just may not figure out what that purpose is. I was a fortunate one that was able to be shown. It punched me right in the face what my purpose was, but you have to make the effort to find out what your purpose in life is. Everybody has a purpose, and I guarantee you that purpose is not to die a so-called hero's death. It's not. We are brought here to work together, to learn off each other, and to make life as good as we can in this horrible, horrible world that we live in, because it was made to be horrible. You know, it's a dunya. It's a testing ground. That's it. Yeah, I got a shower curtain that says dunya is a testing place, not a resting place, right? And so you know, we have to use all of this evilness that surrounds us here in the dunya. Everywhere we go, especially here in America, everywhere we turn, you know, we got pornography, we got relations that should never be happening. We have people who hate. I mean, we see that every day on the news. You know, these white supremacist groups and all these hate-filled groups. You know, for no reason but ignorance. And you know, if we could use that energy, I mean, if you think about it, if we could use the energy that's put into all this hatred, and this is as a world I'm talking. I'm not talking just about America. I'm talking about the world. If we could use that energy and work together, Corona would have been nothing but a bunch of sniffling, and we would have got over it because we worked together. But you got countries that are competing against each other to find cures. No, that's stupid. That is the definition of stupidity. We have to work together. We have to come together. We have to, you know, if I believe in this, or I know somebody that worships doorknobs, that's really beside the point, because we can learn off each other. And you know what? If he takes his time and listens to the things that I say, he won't be worshiping them doorknobs anymore. He'll move on. He'll move on to greater things. And that's what it's all about. It's about peace and understanding. You know, here I am, you know, let's say an ethnic Muslim family moves into white suburbia, into a cul-de-sac somewhere, right? And every day you guys are all loading up in your SUVs and your station wagons and minivans and going to work, and you see each other, right? And there's none of this going on. There's no hi, no bye. There's just like looks. Everybody looks. And that's the problem with a lot of Muslims, especially the ethnic ones in America. They rather stay in the shadows. They don't want to be out. But it's like I tell people, you have to go out there, because Americans are not going to make that first move. Because if they make the first move, it'll be an ugly move. It will not be a positive move.
Right.
So you know, it's up to you. Just say hi, smile. It's Sunnah, right? It's Sunnah, smile. You know, so smile and say hi. That hi turns into eventually a conversation. That conversation eventually turns into your kids playing together in the backyard and having a barbecue. I'm telling you, it will happen. And some people are like, well, I'm not putting any stock into bringing peace in the world by a smile. And I'm like, God, I said, you don't know the power of a smile, man.
Yes.
You know, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. We don't have to believe the same thing. And this is something that raises a lot of eyebrows with Muslims, because, you know, they're so stuck on the whole thing. You know, if you're not a Muslim, you're not this and this and that. And, you know, that is actually just really below the surface. What we need to do is, first of all, before we worry about somebody, a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, or whatever, okay, we need to come together and be able to work. We need to work together. We need to learn off each other, because regardless, you can't tell me as a Muslim I can't learn anything off a Christian, and vice versa. So, but if we close ourselves off to these other people, we're the ones that are harming ourselves.
Yes, of course, especially when you're living in a Western environment and you're surrounded by non-Muslims. Like, you know, you have to know how to actually be around the non-Muslims. If you're living in a Muslim country like me, like, you know, where the majority are Muslims and the minority are non-Muslims, then it's something different. But, like, you know, when you're living in the West and you're living with Christians, you're living with Jews, you're living with Hindus, you have to know how to integrate, basically. Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I tell people, you know, even though it says it touches on it in the Bible, and I don't know much about Judaism, so I don't really talk much about it, but I'm sure they believe the same way. It's actually stated in the Quran. Stated. One of my favorite surahs is Surah 109, Al-Kafirun, right? Which I've almost I kind of believe that's really not even a good title for it, because kafir is such a derogatory term in Islam. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's used in such a derogatory way most of the time, but that doesn't matter. But it's what it says. I believe the way I believe. You believe the way you believe. I go my way. You go yours. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's coexistence. That is absolute coexistence.
Right.
It says it in the Quran.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing it? Why do we not do that? You know, people are so drawn up about the Christians have their missionaries and we do our dawah, and it might sound like I'm speaking out against dawah, and I'm not at all. But the mission should be to spread the knowledge, not make the Muslims. And a lot of Dawuds a lot of times get fixated on making Muslims.
Allah is the one who gives the guidance. We are there just to spread the message, basically.
Exactly. People have wrote me and sent me emails and everything, telling me about how because of my story they're now Muslim. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Allah
used you as a means to give them guidance. Your story
Absolutely.
was used as a means. And this is the reason why I invite people on my show to explain their story, because you don't know, there could be this little thing that somebody's waiting, and this little thing you said, this little thing they heard, and this is what they've been waiting for, and this is what would guide them to Islam. But Allah is the one who has to open their hearts, and we just do our share, basically. We just do our best, we do our share, and it could be this little thing that this person has been bothering him, and he watches a show, and suddenly he thinks, hey, hang on a minute, this is what I've been waiting for, and Allah will use that as a means of guidance for him.
I had a brother come up to me when I was president of the mosque. It was after Juma, and it'd been a long time since 9/11, and he came up to me with a very good question. He says, why is it that, especially in America here, people still hate Muslims? It's been a while since 9/11, and we've proven that that's really not us. We've proven that, and for the most part, it has been proven to most Americans. That's not really Islam. That's just some people with crazy ideas. Okay. And so I said, hey, I can answer that for you, man, but you're probably not going to like the answer. And he says, well, what is it? I said, it's your fault. He said, what? I didn't do anything. Exactly. You didn't do anything. Every single one of us, 1.9 billion Muslims, however many there actually is. I don't think anybody really knows, but we have this number of 1.9 billion. Every one of them is responsible for doing something, for making changes that need to be made, for giving people things to think about, and by preaching, living, and showing positivity in their lives, because one of the things that's talked about a lot in Islam is character. Yeah. If we show proper character to non-Muslims, that's all we need to do.
Exactly. The Prophet ﷺ didn't go around with a book under his arms, like, telling the people. It was his character. It was the character that he had, his personality that he had, that attracted a lot of people to Islam. So we have to show that character. We have to follow his sunnah, and we have to show that character. Brother Charles, do you have any? I mean, we've reached 1 hour and a half now. Do you have any final things you'd like to ask the brother, or something you'd like to add before we kind of conclude?
Not that I can think of. I think it's been pretty well covered.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Okay, and Brother Richard, is for your final thoughts and your advice to other people, your advice to people who've been having the same ideas that you had, and how Allah changed your heart, and how Allah used you now as a beacon of Islam, rather than somebody who hated Islam. So if you have any words, maybe there's somebody out there who's thinking the same things you had in your mind several years ago, and how Allah changed you, kind of thing, like, so maybe you could be the one who can, like, because looking at your story, that could be something that could take the hatred out of Islam from a lot of people's minds. So if you have any final words on this.
Yeah, for anybody that questions, or anybody that is outspoken and making statements either for or against anything, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to understand. I was one that was drowned in ignorance, and was very outspoken about my beliefs and the way things were, because to me that was really what it was. There was a poet one time that had said, realize. You have to be real about yourself. You have to be real about your beliefs, and you have to have evidence for that. And it doesn't have to be evidence that makes everybody else happy. That I think that's where we get twisted, because we need to be we have a need to be in a group. You were not created in a group. You were created as an individual. You need to be an individual that works within a group. But you need to be an individual. You need to find things out for yourself. You need to study. I don't care what it is. Nobody picks up a hammer and builds a house. They study. They learn how to build a house. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with Islam. There's this so much in this world that we know nothing about, but yet we come across as experts. Mm-hmm. We need to stop, take a moment, find out. And if you still don't like it, then again, I refer you to Surah 109. I mean, that's just the way it is, because you believe your way, I believe my way. And I believe my way is right. But the major thing about my belief in that it's right is it's right for me. That's what means everything.
Right. Yeah. What I would like to say is to a lot of brothers out there, I mean, I interact with brothers on a daily basis, especially on Facebook and Twitter and everything. There is so much of hatred for Islam. There's so much of misunderstanding out there. And people don't actually make the effort to go and find the truth. People would just listen to what they hear from the TV, from this and that, and think, well, this is Islam and I hate it. Now, look at this brother's examples. It was a brother who actually had hatred for Islam. And rather than execute his plan, he decided to go and find out about Islam. He went into the masjid and he asked the person, tell me about Islam. And this changed his perception completely about Islam. So for all those of you out there who are haters, or those who have been told things about Islam that are untrue, approach us, approach Muslims. We're not going to hurt you. We're not going to there's a lot of Christian apologists who, when you go to their YouTube, they will call you all sorts of names. They will mute you. We don't do this. We invite you. You come. We can have a proper dialogue. If you want to know things about Islam, as long as you don't show us hatred, as long as you don't show us hostility, why should we not have a kindness for you? We usually refer to Christians as brothers. Yeah. We usually refer to Christians as brothers, and many Christians say, "Why you call me your brother for? I'm not your brother." But no, this is the way we are. This is the way we've been taught. You are our brother in humanity. Whichever way, and we love for you. And our Prophet always taught us to love for others what we love for ourselves. So if you need to know about Islam, don't go to places where we'll give you badness about Islam or whatever. Sit with the Muslims who have knowledge and question us, and Allah could give you that guidance, like Allah gave this brother the guidance, and he was going to do something that was so atrocious that would have changed the actual, his whole thing, and Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him guidance. And it could be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the same, that hatred that you have in your heart, that hatred that you had without even knowing about Islam. There's a lot of people who don't know about Islam. They just know bits and pieces here. They've heard this and that, or from September 11th, 9/11, you still have this hatred. reach out to Muslims, reach out to proper Muslims who've got knowledge, Muslims who've studied, and sit down. I actually was a bad boy. I was a really bad boy before. DJ and the bad life and everything, and just over a cup of tea with a brother in the masjid changed my life completely. Changed my life completely. I never knew used to practice Islam. It was just women and alcohol and then music and everything. And it was a cup of tea in the masjid that a brother invited me. First of all, I looked at him and I said, no, thank you. I don't want. And that kindness, he said, come, share a cup of tea with me. And this brother invited me back to Islam, although I was born a Muslim, but I was totally lost.
Right.
So for those of you who are not Muslim, don't look at as a Muslim if he's as if he's a monster, he's going to bite you or whatever. No, we are brothers in humanity, and reach out, and inshallah, even on the shows here, if we invite you, you can come, we can have a decent conversation. We can because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us from one father, Adam. Yeah. We all, our father is Adam, and and they're meant to get together. So, Brother Richard, I'm extremely happy. I thank you. I don't know how to say, 100,000 pounds for having accepted my invitation to come on my show. And maybe, inshallah, we can do it again in the future some other time, where you can come and we can elaborate on things maybe that we haven't spoken about, and Jazakallah khair. And for those of you who are out there who've been watching, those who will probably watch in the future as well, this could be a means of guidance to you. Yeah. So please subscribe, share to others as well. And Jazakallah khair for brother for coming on, for giving us your time. And Brother Charles as well, Jazakallah as well for giving us your time. And inshallah, we will meet again, inshallah, we will organize again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.